Here we are again with another episode of Impact Stories, and today we speak with a man whose life's work has taken him beyond borders and into countless classrooms, touching the lives of students, of teachers, and policymakers alike. He arrived in Ghana as a young teacher with a heart full of hope and a desire to make a difference. Decades later, he stands as a leader transforming education systems across Africa. His educational journey began with a simple yet powerful belief that empowering teachers can transform entire communities and shape the future of nations. We'll take you to the roots of this remarkable personality on today's show. Our guest today is no other than Robin Todd, the Executive Director of T-TEL. This is Impact Stories, and this is his. My name is Maame Ekua Otuakua Nyame. We'll be back after this short break. You're welcome back from the break, and thank you very much, Mr. Robin, for making the time to talk to us.
You're welcome, Lydia. Thank you for inviting me.
And I must say, I'm very surprised to see you in a smock.
Really?
I was expecting to see a suit and a tie, given that you're a white man.
Yes. Well, today is Friday, and I make sure every Friday I wear a bungma, is what we call it in Manpruli.
Okay.
I think it was Kufuor, didn't he, who started like the local Wear Friday.
Oh.
And my connection to Ghana is through the north of Ghana, through Manprugu, and so I make sure every Friday I wear a smock. And I have a large collection of smocks as well that I've been gifted by people. So,
fantastic.
It also means you don't have to worry about ironing.
That's very true. That's very true. Thank you very much for talking to us. Now, I am quite intrigued about your personality. Now, if someone should ask, who is Robin Todd? What would you say?
Well, I think that's a very big question. I think I'm a very simple person who came to Ghana 25 years ago, fell in love with the country, and I've committed myself to trying to improve education in Ghana. But a lot of the work that we're going to talk about today, it isn't me that did it. It's work that's been done by teachers, by government, by the system. So I would see my role as a facilitator, someone to support and encourage others. So yeah, that's probably who I am.
Can you take us to your family roots, how your life's journey began?
Right, so I'm from the UK originally. I was born in Leicester, but I left there at an early age. I grew up in Chester in the northwest of England. My mother was a primary school teacher. My father was in the Air Force and was an inventor. And then I have one younger sister. And so I had a very kind of normal, very loving family upbringing in Chester. Yeah, but I'd always been interested in traveling and interested in international affairs. At the age of 18, I trained to be an English teacher, just English as a foreign language, and I went and I spent 6 months living in Romania. That was back in 1995. So that's really what got me an interest in traveling, seeing that there were places outside of the UK. And then for my first degree, I studied English and education at the University of York.
Okay.
And during that, I specialized in post-colonial literature. So Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, Bessie Head. And it really kind of opened up a new world to me. And it made me interested in Africa and Asia. And when I finished university, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. In fact, at that time, I played the drums in a band and I wanted to be a musician, but I wasn't very good at it. So I had to find something more productive to do. And I applied for voluntary service overseas. So because I trained as a teacher, they posted English teachers to places where it was difficult for countries to get people to go and teach. And so I applied for voluntary service overseas. They accepted me as a teacher. And then they asked me 2 questions. The first question was, did I want to teach in Africa or Asia? And I said Africa. And then they said, did I want to teach in a rural school or an urban school? And I said rural school.
Wow.
And then they decided to send me to Ghana. And I knew nothing about Ghana. I was 22 years of age. All I knew was Abidi Pele, Tony Yeboah, some of the the footballers. And before you know it, I'm in Wulugu Senior High School in what is now the northeast region of Ghana. And that changed my life. So in a way, it was luck that I said Africa and rural school, and I ended up in Ghana.
You did mention that being taken to the north changed your life. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I think it was it was such an exposure to a different culture and a different way of thinking. And, you know, we have an issue in Ghana. Sometimes there's a lot of people in the south of Ghana who don't fully understand the north. I make sure with our staff, everybody that we employ has to know every corner of Ghana. So I remember, you know, being 22, being driven in the school bus. It was the Wali Wali school bus being driven up from Accra. And you go past all the green, the lush fields, and the headmaster kept stopping to buy plantain and apetayua and oranges. And I didn't know why he was buying these things. And it was February, so the further north you get, you know, we got past Kintampo, and then I see that the green has disappeared, and now it's it's turning brown, and the forest is gone. And by the time we got to Wulugu, it was the night, and it was a real culture shock. But immediately, I felt really at home there, because I've come from a country and a culture that doesn't really have time for people. You know, you can be in a city, everyone's busy, and then suddenly I'm in this village, and I'm walking to the market, and everybody is stopping to greet me. And that's about, nah, nah. And so you're learning all of the greetings, and everybody has time for each other. You know, one thing I loved about the village, if someone's house needs to be repaired, they will call everybody together, and everybody will come, and they'll cook food for them, but they won't pay them, and then they'll fix the house, and they'll do it together. And it just opened my eyes to a different pace of life, and kind of a communality that I felt had been missing from where I grew up. And there were things that I found difficult. I really struggled to eat. I'm not very good at cooking. I'm still not good at cooking. And so just learning to eat kenke and TZ and these kind of things, sabu, we call it in Mampruli, was a challenge. And when I first started, a lot of the learners really struggled with my voice, my accent. So I've learned to slow down my talking a lot. But after about 3 months, I thought, wow, I feel really at home here, and I'm contributing something. I feel that, you know, in your career, I don't think there's any job that's as good as teaching. I mean, even the work that I'm doing now, you're having an impact on people, but it's not as direct. And I had I had like 150 learners in the school. It was a day school. I was the only English teacher for the first year. I stayed for 2.5 years there. So I'm teaching 150 kids, and I'm seeing week by week how they're improving.
Yeah.
Some of them really struggled with reading and writing. I said, look, we're not going to be able to get these kids to the state where they can pass the WASI, but at least if they can read and write a letter, and go back to Langbinsi, go back to their village, and be able to read and write, that's something. And then you can see that change happening. And you know, when I came back to Ghana in 2017, I could meet my former students, and some of them have gone to university, some of them have become teachers, and it really is very fulfilling. So I think for the first time in my life, I found a sense of purpose and a sense of fulfillment. And so when I say that moving to the north of Ghana changed me, that's what changed me. And I got married in the village as well.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So that's
in what year?
Yeah, so this was I got married in 2003.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So obviously that changes your life as well. So there are a number of reasons why it was a really important and formative experience for me. Yeah.
Coming to Ghana, did you ever envision that your life was going to be transformed to that extent?
No, I don't think so at all. And actually, this is the message that I would give to a lot of beginning teachers in Ghana. I know that when beginning teachers are posted, and they're posted to rural areas, sometimes they're reluctant to go, and they will try to pull various strings and do various things to be posted to an urban area. And my advice would be, you don't know what life has in store for you. You don't know what plan God has for you. And somebody needs to go and teach in those villages. 2 years ago, I went to Nkrumah, to Kwame Nkrumah's birthplace. And you think about it, somebody in the 1920s had to teach Kwame Nkrumah, basic literacy, basic numeracy. And if that opportunity hadn't been available, Ghana as a country would look incredibly different today.
Yeah.
So what I'll say to the student teachers, you never know where the next Kwame Nkrumah is going to be born. And so it's important that if you are posted to a village, you go and you do your best for 2 years, 3 years, because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you've led several projects across Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean. Could you share one that has had a transformational impact on you as a teacher and in the education system at large?
Yeah, so if you look at the projects that I've been involved with, let me talk about stuff outside of Ghana, because I think the really transformational things that we've been involved with have been in Ghana. But I worked for the British government for a number of years. I worked in the Prime Minister's Delivery Unit under Gordon Brown, and that gave me a really good understanding of how to make things happen in government. I mean, my professional love is government. I love working with governments, trying to make governments work better. But often governments will develop policies, but the problem then comes in the implementation. How do you ensure it's implemented? And that experience that I'd had in the UK, it meant that I was quite useful to some African governments. And so in 2013, I went to Tanzania, some work that was funded by the British government and the World Bank. And I worked in the Ministry of Education in Tanzania in a delivery unit. And we helped to develop a system whereby money, the capitation grant, was going to schools every month. Previously, the money had been caught up in the system. It had been stuck at a district level or a regional level. And we were able to work with the government to get the money sent directly to schools. And what that meant was that schools were able to budget and plan much more effectively. So I'd say that's something in Tanzania before I came back to Ghana that had a really big impact. But the work that we've done in Ghana since 2017, nothing else I've been involved with in my life can compare to it. I'm incredibly proud of what the Ghanaian education system has achieved and will go on to achieve even more going forward. So I'm happy to talk about Ghana as well.
Fantastic. Now, 2017 till now, what have you been up to in Ghana?
So, a lot of things. So, I had this kind of career path that was very much focused on international consultancy. So, you work on these foreign aid projects. I go to Tanzania, I go to Mozambique, I go to Sierra Leone, I go to South Sudan. And it makes some good, but it isn't really embedded in the system. And when I came to Ghana, it was a project like that. T-TEL, Transforming Teacher Education and Learning, was a project run by Cambridge Education, who are my employers, and funded by the British government. But immediately I came to Ghana, there was something different about the work that we were doing here. It was much more driven by the government. Often in these projects, you feel driven by the donor, by the funder. But the work we were doing, and we were working with Dr. Opoku Prempeh when he was the Minister for Education. We were working with Professor Mohamed Salifu in the National Commission for Tertiary Education to introduce a Bachelor's of Education degree in the Colleges of Education. So prior to 2018, if you enrolled in a College of Education, you would do a diploma in basic education. After 2018, you'd do a Bachelor's of Education degree. And if we look at the impact of that, in fact, we did an external evaluation survey just earlier this year, because the first batch of B.Ed student teachers are now teaching in the classroom. In 2015, less than 2% of beginning teachers, graduates from colleges of education, were meeting the pre-tertiary teacher development standards, were teaching effectively. Now, that is 65%. And for me, that's an absolutely, that's transformational impact. So that project was very transformational. And then in 2020, we took the momentous decision to set up T-TEL as a Ghanaian NGO. So I'm very proud that I'm the first executive director of what is a Ghanaian-owned and managed not-for-profit organisation. Professor Jofus Anamwa-Mensah is our board chair. Our vice chair is Sister Elizabeth, who was the former principal of Ola College of Education, Professor Rita Dixon, Professor Mohammed Salifu, Professor Mike Boachi Yedon. We have Professor Kwame Nkrumah. We have a lot of professors on our boards, I feel, underqualified at times. But what's been great about that is we're supporting the government in a number of areas, including revision of the senior high school curriculum.
Oh.
But we're doing it on our own terms as Ghanaians. This is not an external assistance program run by foreign, foreign consultants. It's something that is run by Ghanaians. And I think it's important that we continue to ensure that T-TEL succeeds, because it then sends out a message that Ghana can be in control of its own development. And Ghanaian experts, Ghanaian teachers have the capacity, have the ability to transform our system by ourselves. So yeah, so that's what I've been doing.
Fantastic. Throughout this journey, I believe you have mentored quite a number of students, of individuals. Is there any particular mentee whose story resonates with you?
I mean, I think within T-TEL, there's too many people to mention in terms of the staff, and I've seen the staff grow and develop. But we have this internship program with TAG, the Teacher Trainees Association of Ghana. So every year we have 12 student teachers who come and are mentored by us. And there's a number of them who I've seen really grow and develop over the years, including the most recent president, Razak Swale. Razak came and he spent a month interning with us, and we were showing him about the roadmaps and how we use roadmaps to help ensure that government agencies are keeping on track and achieving success. And Razak went straight back and he used exactly the same approach with his executive to try to push change within TAG. So that would be one example. Others would be Perpetual Wajuli. Perpetual is somebody who we first met in 2018 when she was a student teacher at St. Teresa's College of Education in Hohoi. And we were at a national consultation event about the B.Ed curriculum, and she was in a discussion group with myself and Professor Salifu. And she was the one that pointed out that we had serious issues in senior high schools. So she was telling her story about how she really enjoyed mathematics when she'd been at primary school, junior high school. Then she went to senior high school, and suddenly the style of teaching was very, very different, and she actually failed in mathematics. She found it difficult to understand the way that the teacher was teaching, the chewing and pouring and the passing and forgetting. And she failed, and so she'd wanted to go and study science at university. She couldn't, went to a college of education. St. Teresa's had a special program focusing on practical science and math teaching, and she graduated from St. Teresa's as the highest scoring student teacher. And then since then, seeing her go into a classroom, seeing the work that she was doing, she's now doing further studies at UEW. And we were so impressed with her that she became a subscriber of T-TEL, so she's been one of the founding members of T-TEL. So I'd say, yeah, Razak and Perpetual would be two people who I've been really impressed with over the years.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. We'll take a quick break, and after the break, we would delve more into the roots of Robin Todd. We'll be right back. You're welcome back from the break, and this is still Impact Stories. Now, the journey of every great man is never always smooth. So today, I want to find out from you, Robin, are there any challenging experiences you faced in your life?
It's very kind of you, but I wouldn't say that I'm a great man by any stretch of the imagination. And I think I've been very fortunate in life. I mean, there's been challenges. There's always challenges. But it's about how you approach those. And I think I've been fortunate to have a very positive, kind of problem-focused kind of mindset. I mean, my staff will say that if they come to me with an issue, they won't leave the room unless it's been solved. So, yeah, I mean, there's always challenges, all the way. If you look at the B.Ed, back in 2018, there were things happening behind the scenes that meant we were quite close to not even having the B.Ed. but it's about understanding people's motivations. It's about having empathy. I think if you want to work in system change, you have to understand what motivates people, and then you have to understand their perspective. And it's about trying to reach solutions that are respectful of that. And so there's all sorts of challenges. I mean, we've had challenges with the senior high school curriculum, but I'd say on a personal level, I've been very fortunate in my life. There's nothing that really stands out to me as something that really was a major setback. But that could be because of my positive outlook on life. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now, you have collaborated or you've worked with organizations like the World Bank, like UNESCO. I want to find out if there were ever challenges in aligning international support with local priorities.
Yeah, massive challenges. Massive challenges. I remember work that we were doing in Uganda with the World Bank on oil and gas skills. So it was a piece of work with the government of Uganda to develop a training plan to ensure that Ugandans are going to be benefiting from the training from the oil and gas. Because what happens in many countries is that when oil and gas is discovered, a lot of expats will come in at the high qualification level, and then they will recruit local people at a much lower level. So we were trying to rebalance that and make sure that Ugandan training institutions were the ones that were training for the higher level, the technician level jobs. But the estimate of the number of jobs that was going to be created, the government wasn't happy with it. They said that they felt that, instinctively, they felt that more jobs should be created. So that was an issue. Another issue, look, it's difficult enough running a Ministry of Education in a country like the UK, where you've got a decent amount of funding, without people coming and telling you what to do. And I remember in Tanzania, you look at the school census questionnaire, which is the questionnaire that has to go out to the schools every year to gather data. And it was, I can't remember exactly how many pages, it was almost like 50 pages long. And then you looked at it and you were saying to the government, why have you got this metric in? Why have you got that metric? Oh, this donor wants us to gather this data. This donor wants us to gather this other piece of data. And so often when you're working in a Ministry of Education in a country that's constrained for funding, you feel that you have to bite your tongue and accept these things. But the interests aren't aligned. And people will say the interests are aligned, but ultimately, any funder that is providing resource to a country, they have their own objectives, their own priorities, which at times might align with the recipient country, but other times they might not align. So there's been definitely issues along the way.
Okay. Now, during your time working under Gordon Brown in the UK, what lessons would you say you learned, and how have these lessons shaped your leadership style today?
Very good. So I was working in the Prime Minister's Delivery Unit, which is a small number of people who worked with ministries and departments to achieve the Prime Minister's priorities. What I would say, the first thing is that when you're leading at that level, a country, you have to have a small number of priorities. You can't, if you try to cover everything, you're not going to achieve success. So either you or the team around you need to be very clear about the priorities that you want to achieve. And then you need to communicate and articulate those. One of the things that I learned is you can never communicate too much. You might think that you've got the message across, but there'll be people in schools in the delivery system who have misunderstood the message. So it's about keeping your communication very clear, very precise. The other thing I learned is that often solutions to problems come about through collaboration. So what we would do in the Prime Minister's Delivery Unit, we would help to solve problems. So one of the issues that the Prime Minister wanted solving was to do with teenage pregnancy. Back in 2009, the UK had the highest teenage pregnancy rate in Europe. So we didn't know about teenage pregnancy as a team of people, but we facilitated a process. We brought together experts from different fields, we got them together, we asked simple questions, and then we supported them to work together to deliver a plan. So oftentimes things go wrong in government because communication is poor, or because there isn't coordination between departments. You look at something like teenage pregnancy, you need the Ministry of Education involved, you need the Ministry of Health involved. So the world doesn't lend itself often to compartmentalize problems. So as a leader, you need to have that ability to convene people, to solve problems, and you need to have humility. That's the other thing. It's about being as humble as possible, and it's about trying to look at government through the perspective of citizens. So often people will look at government and, oh, the Prime Minister, the President is the most important person. You need to run a government agency focusing on the end users. So in the Ministry of Education, everything that you do needs to focus on the children in schools. And you need to ask yourself every day, is what we're doing having a positive impact on the people in the schools or on parents? And if it isn't, then we're not doing it right. So that for me was the major lesson. It's about reframing power dynamics to look at citizens, because ultimately citizens are the ones that vote in the government. And sometimes we can become too interested in our own self-importance or our own interests. So I've tried, I can't say I've always succeeded, but I've tried as a leader to be as humble as possible, to communicate as openly with people as possible, to show integrity, and to reject some of the perks that come with leadership. So the staff can tell you I get to work with Uber or Bolt. I don't believe that I should have a vehicle. Why should I have my own vehicle and the other staff don't? You know, if you set yourself up with lots of perks, then the staff in the organisation will start to be resentful, or they'll start to think, oh, why haven't I got that? But if you put the work first and you focus in that way, then I think it's a more effective way of leading. So I've tried to be as humble as possible. As I said, I don't always succeed. And I've tried to communicate. Every Sunday, I'll send an email to all of the staff, all of the stakeholders, and I've done that every Sunday since October 2017, and it goes to about 400 people every week. It's a bit long, it's a bit boring. Sometimes people don't read it, but I know some people read it, because there was one weekend I didn't send it, and at about 11 o'clock people were calling me, am I all right, have I had an accident, because they hadn't seen it. And so yeah, those would be, if I'm advising anybody in a leadership position, those would be the things that I would recommend.
Now, what two key priorities would you advise education stakeholders to focus on for effective and sustainable systems in Africa?
Yeah, okay. That's a big question. I think I've already answered the first, which is you need to focus on the child. You know, you need to focus on, is what you're doing having a positive impact at a classroom level? And often that will mean delegating responsibility to the lowest level possible. I think a lot of the times, and I've been involved in this myself, sometimes in a well-meaning way, you can overlook the agency of teachers. So it's about trying to support teachers as much as possible, setting high expectations of them, but then trying to give them the tools to deliver, focusing on their motivation. And I think too often we can focus on technical solutions that overlook that human element. And you can have a beautiful curriculum, you can have very, very well-designed assessment, but if the teachers aren't feeling motivated, it's going to be a problem. And that is a problem in Ghana at the moment. You know, we have a new senior high school curriculum. We know that that's created more work for teachers, and we've been doing what we can. I hope teachers will start to see over the coming months with the PLCs and others that we're trying to provide more support to them to enable them to understand and implement this. But ultimately, there are various factors that are demotivating them. So I think the first is to focus on the end user, and the second is to focus on people's motivations. Often the reasons why results aren't achieved is not because of a technical solution, it's because of a lack of understanding or a lack of motivation or a lack of willingness. And one of the things that I think NACA and GES and the ministry have done really well with the senior high school curriculum is create a sense of nationalism around it. And if you look at the writing, I mean, the senior high school curriculum that was rolled out in November last year, it's the first curriculum in our history that's been written by so many classroom teachers. It was written by over 300 Ghanaians. Every subject had at least 2 classroom teachers involved as the writers. And if you go to the writing, you look at the materials sessions, it's done at a residential workshop, and there will be people 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, they're still working. And they're not getting paid a huge amount to do this. They're getting something, but not a huge amount. And you ask them why, and they said, because this is in the good of our country. Because we want an education system which promotes Ghanaian values. We want an education system which teaches Ghanaian children that there's nothing intellectually inferior about Ghana compared to the rest of the world. An education system that makes them want to stay and contribute to the development of this country. And so that sense of nationalism and pride, I think, is really important. So in all of the reforms, taking people along and explaining about how this is something that's going to benefit your country is incredibly important.
You did mention that for the first time, the current curriculum that's been rolled out was put together by a lot of teachers. I'm curious, oftentimes, how is it done? How is the curriculum put together?
Yeah. So in many countries, and what had happened in Ghana in the past, is that it will be written by experts. So you will get professors, you will get academic experts together. Sometimes it's a foreign consultant. I know more than one African country that hired a foreign consultant to write their entire curriculum for them. And what that means is you have a lack of ownership, because you have something, and people will say, oh, there's not the capacity in the system. There's always the capacity in the system. And what Ghanaian teachers have proved is that they can achieve great things if empowered to do so. If you look at the learner materials for the new curriculum, all online, curriculumresources.edu.gh, you go and look at all of those learner materials, all written by senior high school teachers. And these are teachers not just from Category A schools, but from Category A, Category B, Category C. You'll see the names of the teachers in the schools. So it's about empowering and facilitating. And so what's happened in the past, if you get a small number of academics to write your curriculum, it might look beautiful on paper. It might meet all these international standards, but the teachers are going to struggle to understand it, and they're going to struggle to implement it. And you also then have a system that perpetuates foreign knowledge. It's interesting, in the last couple of years, I've become much more fiercely Ghanaian nationalistic. You look at the education system that we inherited in Ghana, and it was formal education was brought by my ancestors, the British, and it was brought for a very specific purpose, to teach Ghanaians that European culture, civilization, history is superior to Ghanaian culture, history, and civilization. And you look at it, even now, all these years after independence, there's elements of that remain in our system. Look at how we teach our children A, B, C.
Yeah.
We say B is for ball, C is for cat, A is for what? Apple.
Apple.
My friend, I lived in Mulugu for 2.5 years, and I did not see a single apple. The apple is not indigenous to Ghana. So why do we say A is for apple? We say A is for apple because that was what was imposed on the system. There are plenty of words that start with A that we could use. You can use simple words like A is for ant. Or you can start to use Akan words, use all sorts of things. All sorts of things. A is for Asanka. You go on the English Wikipedia, right? You'll see Asanka, Ghanaian cooking vessel. And what ends up happening, because you have that focus, it subliminally in children's minds, it makes them think that foreign things are better. Right? You look at all the YouTube videos and all these other learning materials that they're exposed to, especially the kids that go to private schools. And so it ends up that everybody wants to leave.
Yeah.
And there are legitimately reasons for wanting to leave Ghana, but the education system is making it worse. You give people a chance between studying a PhD at a Ghanaian university or a foreign university, they're off. They're abroad. And I'm trying to do a PhD at UCC because the topic that I'm doing about educational leadership in Ghana, there's no university in the world that would be as good as doing that. So the education system is really important for a sense of national pride, national identity. You look at the SHS curriculum that we've been running up until now, it's been silent on Ghanaian values, Ghanaian culture, and not enough materials in the 12 Ghanaian languages. I'm speaking to you in English. Unfortunately, my Mampruli is very bila, my Chui is even worse. But look, the Minister of Education from Malaysia, when he was asked about the purpose of education, he said, the purpose of education in Malaysia is to train honest citizens who love their country. And he said, I can train a doctor, I can train a lawyer, I can train an engineer, But if that fellow is not honest and they don't have love for my country, what use are they to my nation's development? And so that's the change we're trying to bring about in Ghana, as well as focusing on the technical skills, focusing on a sense of national pride, identity, values. And I think if we do that, it will go a long way to developing this country.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now, away from your professional life, away from education, we want to know more about you. What do you do in your leisure time?
Yeah. Well, I would say, Lydia, one of my weaknesses is there's been an enormous blurring of my personal and professional life. I would say that I would not recommend people taking their work home to the extent that I take my work home. Since I moved back to Ghana in 2017, my wife and children have been in the UK. And I get a chance to see them a few times a year, but it means that I have a lot of time here, and a lot of my time is focused on work. And that's a conscious decision that I've made. But I do other things. I like running. I run marathons. I find that it gives me some quiet time. I like getting up, and my staff can tell in the morning if I've been for a 10K run or not. Because I get up, do a 10K run, and it helps me solve problems without even consciously thinking about it. By the time I've run 10K, the problem will have gone. So we've got these world marathon majors across the world. I ran them all. I'm getting a bit older now. I'm 48. I ran my fastest marathon 2 hours 58 minutes when I was 45.
Whoa.
I'm not sure I could run that fast anymore, so now I'm running longer. So I ran my first 100-mile race in April in the UK. That's 164 kilometers.
Whoa.
It took me 26 and a half hours. I got lost in the woods. I almost cried, but I enjoyed it. So I'm not sure I can explain why I enjoy it, but that's what I do for fun. I like running, very, very long distances. And then I also like football. I'm a big fan of Everton. My uncle took me to see Everton when I was 9 years old. 1986, we won the league in 86, 87. Unfortunately, we haven't won anything since 1995. But every time Everton are playing, I will sit down. I wouldn't say I watch football, I watch Everton, but it is good practice for supporting the Black Stars because it means that I'm used to failure and disappointment. So you have all of these Black Stars fans that support Man City or Chelsea or Liverpool, and then they get upset when we don't qualify for the AFCON or we get knocked out of the World Cup. For me, it's normal. And I do have a Ghanaian football team as well.
Oh.
I support RTU, Real Tamale United, which is, again, is another failure of a club. We just failed to get promoted this season. Just failed to get promoted. And I even went in October, I was there in Tamale. I went to the stadium to watch them. So I like football and running would be
fantastic.
What I do. Yeah.
Are there any Ghanaian meals you enjoy? Your favorite?
My favorite food in the whole world is kenki.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't want to offend anybody from Cape Coast, but I'm talking about the gar kenki here. I'm not talking about the fancy.
No way.
I'm
fancy.
I know the fancy kenki is more versatile, but give me some hot, soft gar kenki, 1 man thousand, some shrimp, hot pepper, shito. Oh. And actually, my favourite place for eating kenki in all of Ghana is Somania. There's the kenki shed in Somania. Anyone that is driving on the way to Hao through Somania, stop at the kenki shed. Fantastic choice of fish and shrimp there. It's So that's my favourite.
Fantastic. Given that you've been in Ghana for a number of years, the typical Ghanaian would prefer waakye early in the morning. Would you consider yourself a waakye person?
Yeah, I mean, I eat waakye. Definitely, I'll definitely have waakye. As an adopted Northerner, waakye is a Northern food, but you give me a choice, the hierarchy, dukuno first, then the waakye. And then for lunch, it would have to be fufu. Fufu, light soup, and then some fish. Very nice. Although, it took me a while to learn how to eat fufu properly. I'm ashamed to say that I was chewing it. Oh. So it took me quite a long time to learn to swallow rather than
How many
chew.
years?
I'm not even telling you, but it was a long time. But I have to, swallowing is much better. But some people say that I'll never properly be a Ghanaian because I can't eat fish head. Right?
You can't eat fish head?
No.
You're missing out.
No, people tell me that the brain tastes like Coca-Cola. It's very nice. But I find it difficult to eat something that's looking at me. I think that's a weakness on my part. I can't eat fish head. But apart from that, I
Okay.
fully embrace Ghanaian cuisine.
Fantastic. Now, you did mention that you have a Ghanaian wife and you have children who are currently in the UK. Now, I
Yeah.
want to find out that has the fact that you have a Ghanaian family in any way enriched your experience and your journey here?
Oh, it's massively enriched it because I've got a large extended family in the north of Ghana. The Tindana of Wulugu is my father-in-law, and so I have in-laws, relatives all over the place. I'm never lonely. There's always people coming to stay, so it's massively enriched it, and it's also, I think, enabled me to have a deeper understanding of what it means to be a Ghanaian. You know, that extended family support network and the obligations that go with it. It's a beautiful thing having an extended family, but it also comes with with obligations. So it's massively enriched my understanding of working in Ghana. It's massively enriched my life, and I'm incredibly grateful for that.
And after 25 years of being in Ghana, do you have any plans of returning back to the UK?
So I lived in Ghana 2000 to 2002. I moved back to Ghana permanently in 2017. But when I came in 2017, I planned to stay for a year and go. And then all of this work started to happen with T-TEL. And now it's been, 8 years? And I've got no plans of whatsoever, right? This is my home. This is where I'm growing my base. We have ambition. We do have an ambition that T-TEL, we would like to support the development of education in other African countries. We would like to support people of other nationalities to come together and form national NGOs. We feel that increasingly we should be solving our own problems and that we have the talent, the skills, the expertise to solve our own problems. So I think our vision would be that T-TEL helps to establish a kind of a Pan-African network of education-focused NGOs. Prof. Anwar Mensah is a fantastic role model for me. I mean, one of the most influential people in my life, and he's got this great Nkrumahist vision of T-TEL helping to develop education across Africa. And so it may well be that our work takes me beyond Ghana, but my home will always be Ghana, always.
Fantastic. And just to conclude, you earlier mentioned the fact that most of our youth end up leaving the country. Now, given that you have had the international experience and you've also experienced firsthand how life is in Ghana, what advice do you have for a lot of our youth who are willing to travel out to pursue their education, but never to return?
Yeah. So I would say, go, absolutely. No one's stopping you. Go, experience it, because experiencing a different culture, a different way of life, it gives you a different, stronger perspective on your own culture. Go, but come back. That's what I'd say. And I know why it's difficult. I know why people leave. You know, the economy, all those kind of things. Although hopefully we're turning a corner now. But I would say take the skills and expertise that you've used and find a way of using them back in Ghana. And you can do that in an entrepreneurial way. It doesn't mean coming back and going to work as a classroom teacher in a school, although I would encourage you to do that. It's about trying to find ways to make Ghana better. And I've seen a lot of people who have returned with entrepreneurial ideas, they've set up businesses, they've done various things. So I would say take the skills and expertise that you've learned and bring it back and develop Ghana. Because ultimately, I don't think you can judge the value and worth of a country on its GDP alone, on its economy alone. And there are wonderful things about Ghana, the warmth, the friendliness. Yeah, we've got problems, of course we have problems. But there's something special about this country, particularly if you're born here and you're a Ghanaian. And I think coming back and doing something that's benefiting you and benefiting your country is the best thing you can do. I look at the staff we have in T-TEL. Many of the staff in T-TEL have worked abroad. They've had the opportunity to live abroad, and they've chosen to stay and to work here. So yeah, I'm not telling you don't go, but look at how you can come back and help us.
Thank you very much for making the time to talk to us, and this is where we end today's episode. But I need you to speak just a line in any preferred Ghanaian language, just anything. Say something in a Ghanaian language. Come again. Oh, what language is that?
That's Mampruli.
Mampruli.
Yeah. So in Dagbani it'd be Mpuya. But in Manpuri, it's in Pussy.
I was hoping you'd speak Chi.
Medasipa.
Medasipa, thank you very much. Thank you so much for talking to us. And this has been a very interesting conversation with Robin Todd, Director of T-TEL. I took two main key takeaways from this production. He did mention that if you're a young leader, humility and communication would really take you far. And thank you to you, our lovely viewer, for staying with us. Until next time, this is it.